Now this was a huge module with lots of new content, lots of new pieces of information, and it was an important module since it was all about the basics of HTML, HTML elements, and CSS. To conclude this module, before I summarize what we learned in the next lecture, I wanna have a look at the way we organize our files here. Because whilst this is a simple website and organizing the files like this, all in the same folder, is definitely all right, we might want to organize them into subfolders, especially as our page grows. And for this, I want to create a separate folder for my style sheets and one for my images, even though it's only one image here. But still, I think that is a way of organizing the files, which will make working with this project a bit easier. And for this, I'll add a folder named images, which, guess what, holds my images, and one folder named styles, which holds my styles. And I'll then drag and drop the image here into that images folder, and I'll drag and drop my free style sheet files into the styles folder. But there's one important thing to note. With such subfolders added, we need to adjust our paths here where we point at those files. In index.html, when I point at shared CSS, just using the file name like this won't work anymore. If I save this and I go to that first page, all the styles and the image will be lost because the browser doesn't find these files anymore. And it doesn't find these files anymore because they're not in the same folder as the HTML file anymore. I mentioned before that the value of ref and also of source is a relative path to the file we want to include. And if that file now sits in a subfolder, we simply need to specify that subfolder name here as well. So in the case of the shared CSS file, that should be styles/shared CSS. A slash marks the separation between the folder name and then the file name in the folder which you want to access. And therefore it's the same here for daily challenge CSS. And for this image here, it's images/challenges trophy. Now, this link here to full week HTML does not change because that file hasn't moved. But inside of full week HTML, we now also want to point at styles shared CSS, styles full week CSS, and that's it. We got no image there, so that's all. And with that, if I reload, we got the styles back, we got the image back. But now, I would say it's a bit more organized, and especially if we have more and more images and more style files, organizing our code files like this can make our project a bit more maintainable and a bit easier to work with.